Kelidoscope kitchen. We're going to be making salsa fresca, which means fresh salsa. And this is great because this is no cooking, just slicing fresh fruits and vegetables straight from your garden or your local grocery store. So let's begin. Before we start with the food, there's a few things that we do every time. Make sure your hair is pulled back if that's appropriate for you. Make sure your hands are cleaned, wash your hands. And also we want to gather all of our equipment. It saves time and it saves mistakes. You don't want to be halfway through your recipe and remember that you forgot the onion or you forgot your knife. So I've already gathered all this for the sake of time, and we're just going to begin. We're starting with our ingredients are fresh tomatoes. I'm choosing a red onion. You can use yellow or white, a jalapeno, and a lime. If you don't have lime, red wine and vinegar works just fine. I'm using cilantro because to me cilantro just has to be in my salsa. I know there's many cilantro haters out there. That's fine. You can admit that if you want to. So let's start with our tomatoes. We want to start with our tomatoes first because we want them to rest a little bit. We're going to sprinkle them with some salt to leach some of the water out of it, and then we'll continue on. So I have already, as you can see, chopped up one tomato. The ratio of tomato to onion should be about 2 tomatoes by weight to an onion. Now this onion's a little heavy. You can see I've already taken a slice out of it. So I only need a little piece of this onion, and I'm only going to use one of these tomatoes for our ratio today. So this will be 2 tomatoes to a slice of onion. And you can just eyeball that. The one nice thing about salsa is that it's very forgiving. You know, you can tailor it the way you want to. The way I start with my tomatoes is I want to take the core out of the middle. So I kind of hold it at a 45-degree angle and just very gently cut this core out, like so. That way I can keep as much of the tomato as possible, just like that. And I'm going to slice it in half, in quarters, and in eighths. Using a sharp knife is really important. We respect the knife, but a dull knife can be dangerous. I'm going to go with a smaller knife so I can de-seed it. So I'm starting at the bottom and just kind of like an apple, just popping those seeds out. If you leave the seeds in, that's fine if you want to, but then you're going to get a really watery salsa. And if you're trying to eat it with chips, it's not going to be so good. So, if you have little hands in the kitchen or your partner, they can help you with this too. They can either do the prepping by getting all your equipment and your ingredients, or they can do this while you move on to the next piece. It's always nice when you work together as a family or as a household, because it makes everybody part of the process. So now that my tomatoes are de-seeded, I'm just going to cut them into these little strips and then further dice them. I'm sticking with my little knife because it has a little more power than my slicer. You can just see how easy this is. Imagine you're pulling tomatoes out of your garden, and that's the best. This isn't summer at the moment, but it brings a little of the summertime into our kitchen every time we make a fresh salsa. Now, if you want to choose a plum tomato which has less seeds, you won't probably have to go through this process. A beefier tomato like the slicer, but even if you only have cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes on hand, that's fine too. Use whatever you have. Again, salsa is very forgiving. If you want to put some red or green peppers in it, that's fine too. So there we have our tomatoes. I'm going to put them in my bowl along with my other tomato. Now, the onion. Onion, beautiful onion. I choose the red one because it's a little bit sweeter. And what I'm going to do, I've already done some, but I'm just going to do I'll just demonstrate how I cut the onion. I'm going to put that aside. You take the skin off. You don't want to eat the skin. And take it off down to where it's a nice onion. If there's like a little area there where it's still kind of tough, take that off too. And the onion has natural lines on it, So we're just going to take the knife and gently, I'm using my finger to kind of keep it together, cut along the lines, turn it or turn your board, and dice it. If you want to further dice it and chop it into smaller pieces, that's up to you. The bigger the piece, the bigger the bite. So if you really really don't want the onion flavor to dominate, chop it up really, really small. I prefer a larger chunk, so I'm going to go ahead with this. Now, I'm using a different cutting board for my jalapeno because jalapenos, as you know, very spicy, very hot, and they contaminate everything they touch. I have some cut up here, but I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate with this one. A good way to tell how hot a jalapeno is they get almost like a blistering or crackling. That means they're very mature, they've been stressed a little bit. That's going to be a hotter jalapeno. So just beware when you are choosing your jalapeno. This one's a relatively fresh young one. Another way is if you cut off the top, so we're going to start, all the heat is in the membrane and the seeds, primarily, not the skin or the flesh. So I would suggest, instead of just dumping a whole jalapeno in there and then ruining your salsa, just start off with like a quarter. Like you can see this one's loaded. I would just start off with a quarter at a time. And if you choose to put the seeds in, just understand that's going to make it pretty spicy. So I would suggest you devein it and take the seeds out. And then you can up the heat. Once you get the flesh in, excuse me, I'm going to move the seeds away with the back side of my knife, not my sharp side. And if you have some gloves, some protective gloves before you handle the jalapeno and you want to put those on, I would suggest it. If you don't, you can take some cooking oil, rub it on your hands. It makes kind of a natural glove on your hand, and and wash your hands immediately afterwards. For our purposes for this video today, I'm just going to go forward, but I will be very cautious later, because even a day later, if you touch your eye, it's going to hurt. You're going to know that you handled some jalapenos. So I'm going to pick up my board and put it in there. Okay, I'm not going to use this because I'm going to just start with that for now. So now I have my mix. As you can see, it's really beautiful. A lot of different colors. I'm going to sprinkle in some salt. I'm using a flake salt, which is just that. It's like a crispy, flaky salt. The reason I'm using this is because it dissolves. It's brighter, it's faster, it dissolves. It's a fresh salsa. I'm probably going to serve it pretty soon, so I want it to start not marinating, but blending together sooner than later. So we got that in there. I'm going to go with my lime next. We're going to take a nice fresh lime, and again, red wine vinegar would be fine. The red wine vinegar kind of complements the tomato, but for more of an authentic, we're going to go with the lime. Take a fork, stick it right in there, and just twist. This will just get the juice out. If you have a juicer, that's fine. This is, for me, it's more of how many dishes do I want to watch at the end of the day. So I'll take the fork. And I might save this later to put into my club soda. Let's see. Now that we have that all assembled, I am now going to add some spice. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot my favorite friend, cilantro. Cilantro, for some people, they think it's really soapy. I used to be one of those people until I made cilantro pesto, and now it's my favorite. It grows a little funky, and it has these 2 stems on the bottom. So what I do is I put them together. I'm only going to use 3 for today. And then twist there. You can use the stems. The stems are fine to use. They have a lot of flavor in them as well. But just for aesthetic purposes, we're going to do that. And I'm going to crunch it into a little ball. I think I'll take my short one. And I'm just going to crunch this little ball up into tiny little pieces so that the flavor of the cilantro spreads throughout the salsa. So there we go. Now I'm going to come in with the spices. You can omit the spices if you want to. I'm going to use cumin today because it has a nice soft round flavor that goes with this hot jalapeno and this bright red onion. But if you want more of a smoky flavor, you could go with the chipotle, which is a smoked jalapeno. And if you don't have any, you just want to go to your cabinet and pull some chili powder, that's fine too. But for today, we're just going to go with some cumin. Start small, always start small. Not with the big one, but with the baby one. This is a quarter. So I'm going to put a quarter in here. And that's it. And then I'm going to take my fork and I'm just going to gently toss these around. So right now it's looking, pretty chunky. It hasn't kind of committed yet. So what I want to do before I serve it, you don't want to serve it right away. If you do, obviously you can, but what happens is the cumin, for example, it still hasn't absorbed all the surrounding flavors, and it's going to taste almost powdery, like you're eating cumin. All the flavors haven't talked to each other yet, so you really want to refrigerate this for a good hour before you serve it. But here we go. This is basically it. This is salsa fresca. It's just a nice bright salsa. If you wanted to, like I said, you can dress this up a little bit in a couple of different ways. If you want to make it more of a main, like salad, I would put in a can, or not even a full can, but maybe for this amount, maybe half of this amount or a quarter of this amount with some beans, black beans, red beans, kidney beans, whatever you like. You could add this as a side salad too if you're having some grilled chicken and you want to put this on the side. You can mix it with some rice or quinoa and make it a whole side dish by itself, or throw it on your eggs in the morning for breakfast. It's a really nice way, really quick. The whole family can help with this, and don't forget that cleaning up is part of the process. I hope that you give this a try, and thank you for joining us. I'm here because of Upper Saco Cultural Alliance and the Spice and Grain, of which the Kelidoscope Kitchen is a part of, and I hope to see you again soon for our next recipe.